Have you ever imagined that a single washing machine could change the way the world looks at an entire country? For decades, Burkina Faso has often appeared in international headlines because of security challenges, economic hardship, and political uncertainty. Yet today, another story is quietly emerging. It is not about weapons, elections, or diplomatic disputes. It is about a young inventor who looked at one of the most ordinary household chores and asked a simple question. What if washing clothes could become easier, cheaper, and more practical for families across Africa? That question led to an invention that is now attracting attention far beyond Burkina Faso. Before we continue, if you enjoy discovering inspiring stories about African innovation, history, and development, please subscribe to the channel and join us as we explore the ideas shaping the future of the continent. The inventor behind this remarkable project is Gael Cabore, a Burkinabe entrepreneur who chose to solve a problem that millions of people experience every single week. In many communities across Burkina Faso and other parts of West Africa, washing clothes by hand remains a demanding task. It requires time, physical effort, large amounts of water, and in many places, reliable electricity is still not guaranteed. Instead of accepting these challenges as permanent, Cabore decided to rethink the entire process from the ground up. His journey did not begin with the impressive solar-powered mobile washing machine that people are talking about today. Like many innovators, he started with simple ideas. One of his earliest concepts was a manually operated washing machine designed for areas without electricity. Later, he developed another version powered by a bicycle mechanism, allowing human energy to replace electrical power. Each new prototype taught valuable lessons about what worked, what failed, and what local families actually needed. Rather than copying expensive imported appliances, he continued improving his designs until they reflected the realities of everyday life in Burkina Faso. The result is known as the Lavator, a mobile washing system powered by solar energy and mounted on an electric three-wheel vehicle. It represents more than an engineering project. It represents a different way of thinking about innovation. Instead of asking how Africa could imitate technologies developed elsewhere, Cabore asked how local knowledge, local resources, and local conditions could inspire something unique. This story also raises a much larger question. Is the Lavator simply an isolated invention created by one determined entrepreneur, or is it a sign that Burkina Faso is entering a new chapter built on local creativity, practical technology, and economic self-reliance? As we continue, we will explore how this invention works, why it has captured so much attention, how it connects with the broader vision of national development, often discussed by Ibrahim Traore, and whether this simple machine could become a symbol of a changing future for Burkina Faso and perhaps for Africa itself. The journey from a simple idea to the Lavator was neither quick nor easy. Like many successful innovators, Gael Cabore did not wake up one morning with a finished product ready for the market. Instead, he spent years experimenting, improving, and learning from every prototype he built. His goal was never to create the most sophisticated washing machine in the world. His mission was much more practical. He wanted to design a machine that ordinary families in Burkina Faso could actually use, especially in communities where electricity, water, and financial resources are often limited. That philosophy became the foundation of every version he developed. Cabore's earliest invention was known as the Manilingue, a manually operated washing machine that required no electricity at all. At first glance, it appeared to be a simple mechanical device, but it represented an important breakthrough in thinking. Instead of waiting for expensive infrastructure or imported technology, he created a solution that could immediately serve families living in villages without reliable power. Although the machine depended on human effort, it significantly reduced the physical burden of scrubbing clothes entirely by hand while consuming relatively little water. More importantly, it proved that innovation could begin with local realities rather than foreign expectations. Encouraged by the positive response, Cabore continued refining his ideas. His next invention, the bicycling, introduced a bicycle-powered mechanism that transformed pedaling into mechanical energy capable of driving the washing drum. This clever adaptation reflected the widespread availability of bicycles across many African communities. Instead of relying on costly electric motors, he converted everyday movement into productive energy. The project demonstrated not only technical creativity, but also a deep understanding of the environment in which his inventions would operate. Every improvement brought him closer to a washing system that was efficient, affordable, and adapted to the daily lives of ordinary people. The next stage of development introduced solar technology through a model known as the Solingue. By integrating photovoltaic panels with rechargeable batteries, Cabore reduced dependence on unstable electrical networks while taking advantage of one of Burkina Faso's greatest natural resources, abundant sunshine. This transition marked an important turning point because the invention was no longer simply replacing manual labor. It was beginning to combine renewable energy with practical household technology, opening new possibilities for communities that often experience frequent power interruptions. All of these experiments eventually led to the creation of the Lavator, the most advanced version of his vision. Built on an electric three-wheeled vehicle and powered primarily by solar energy, the Lavator is much more than a washing machine. It is a complete mobile service platform. Solar panels continuously recharge the battery system while the vehicle is operating or parked, providing greater autonomy throughout the day. According to Cabore, one washing cycle takes approximately 20 minutes and can clean around 40 pieces of clothing using roughly 20 liters of water. These features were designed specifically to match local conditions rather than imitate imported appliances. Perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of the Lavato is his business model. Instead of asking customers to transport heavy bags of laundry to a fixed location, the washing service travels directly to neighborhoods, homes, hospitals, schools, and childcare centers. In doing so, Gael Cabore transformed a household appliance into a mobile enterprise capable of creating jobs, saving time, reducing physical labor, and expanding access to modern laundry services. His invention demonstrates that meaningful innovation does not always begin with advanced laboratories. Sometimes it begins by carefully observing everyday challenges and refusing to accept that they must remain unsolved forever. Every meaningful invention is ultimately judged not by how impressive it looks, but by the problems it solves. That is where the Lavato begins to stand apart. Although its solar panels, electric tricycle, and mobile washing system attract immediate attention, its greatest strength lies in the practical impact it can have on ordinary people. Instead of being designed exclusively for wealthy households or large commercial businesses, the Lavator addresses the daily realities faced by families, hospitals, childcare centers, and rural communities. It represents a practical response to challenges that millions of Africans continue to experience every week, making it far more than another piece of household equipment. One of the most immediate benefits is the reduction of physical labor. Across many parts of Burkina Faso and other regions of West Africa, washing clothes by hand remains a demanding responsibility that often falls on women. Hours are spent carrying water, soaking garments, scrubbing fabric, rinsing repeatedly, and hanging clothes to dry. This work consumes valuable time that could otherwise be devoted to education, income-generating activities, childcare, or rest. By reducing both washing time and water consumption, the Lavator offers families an opportunity to reclaim part of that time while easing one of the most physically exhausting household chores. The invention also introduces a completely different business model. Instead of expecting customers to own an expensive washing machine, Gael Cabore designed a mobile laundry service capable of traveling directly to neighborhoods and villages. This approach significantly lowers the financial barrier for many families because they pay for a service rather than purchasing costly equipment. At the same time, the model creates opportunities for entrepreneurs who can operate the mobile units as independent businesses. One vehicle can serve dozens of households in a single community, making the technology accessible to people who might never be able to afford a conventional washing machine. Beyond households, the Lavator has the potential to provide valuable services to hospitals, maternity clinics, schools, orphanages, and childcare centers. In many facilities with limited resources, staff members or family caregivers are often responsible for washing heavily soiled clothing, bedding, and linens by hand. A mobile washing service could improve hygiene, reduce manual labor, and free healthcare workers or caregivers to focus on more essential responsibilities. While the Lavator is not intended to replace industrial hospital laundry systems, it may offer an effective solution for smaller facilities where such equipment is unavailable. The economic impact extends even further. Every mobile washing unit requires operators, maintenance technicians, electricians, mechanics, battery specialists, customer service providers, and suppliers of replacement parts. As production expands, additional employment opportunities could emerge in assembly, logistics, distribution, marketing, and technical training. In this way, one practical invention can stimulate an entire network of small businesses that support local economic activity rather than sending most of the value abroad through imported products. Perhaps the most important contribution of the Lavator is psychological rather than mechanical. It encourages young Africans to believe that innovation does not have to begin with billion-dollar laboratories or multinational corporations. It can begin by carefully observing everyday life, identifying a common challenge, and developing a solution that reflects local conditions. If more innovators across Africa adopt this mindset, the continent may gradually build industries that are not defined by imitation, but by creativity, practicality, and confidence in its own abilities. That may prove to be the Lavator's greatest legacy, extending far beyond the simple act of washing clothes. As the Lavator attracted growing attention across Burkina Faso, many observers began asking a much broader question. Could a single invention like this represent the kind of future that President Ibrahim Traore has often described in his speeches about national development? While there is no public evidence that the government directly funded or designed the Lavator, the philosophy behind the invention closely reflects several ideas that have become increasingly visible in Burkina Faso's economic vision. Understanding that connection helps explain why this mobile washing machine has become more than a simple technological achievement. It has become part of a larger conversation about self-reliance, industrial development, and confidence in local talent. One of the central themes frequently emphasized by Ibrahim Traore is the importance of producing more goods within Burkina Faso instead of relying heavily on imported products. For many years, African countries have exported raw materials while importing finished goods at much higher prices. This pattern has limited the development of domestic industries and reduced opportunities for local entrepreneurs. The Lavator represents a different approach. Rather than importing another washing machine designed for completely different markets, Gael Cabore created a product specifically adapted to Burkina Faso's environment, climate, and social conditions. In that sense, the invention reflects the broader goal of adding value through local creativity rather than depending entirely on foreign manufacturing. Another important aspect of Traore's vision is the belief that young people should become creators of economic value instead of waiting for opportunities to arrive from outside the country. Burkina Faso possesses a large and energetic youth population with significant technical potential. However, talent alone is rarely enough. Innovation requires determination, practical experience, and a willingness to solve real problems. Cabore's journey illustrates this principle perfectly. Instead of pursuing recognition through complicated technologies with little connection to daily life, he focused on a challenge that millions of families understand immediately. His success demonstrates that meaningful innovation often begins by improving ordinary life rather than inventing something spectacular for international headlines. At the same time, it is important to maintain a balanced perspective. The Lavator should not be presented as proof that Burkina Faso has already completed its industrial transformation. One successful invention, no matter how impressive, cannot by itself create a manufacturing sector capable of competing with the world's largest producers. Sustainable industrial development requires investment, technical education, quality standards, financing, reliable supply chains, maintenance networks, and long-term public and private cooperation. These foundations take years to build, and every developing nation faces similar challenges during its industrial journey. Even so, symbols matter. Throughout history, many industrial revolutions have been remembered not only for massive factories, but also for the small inventions that changed how people thought about their own capabilities. The Lavator encourages citizens to believe that solutions to African challenges can come from African minds. Whether or not it becomes a large commercial success, it has already contributed something equally valuable by strengthening confidence in local innovation. If more inventors, entrepreneurs, educators, investors, and policymakers work together with the same practical mindset, Burkina Faso may gradually build a type of resilient industrial economy that many of its leaders, including Ibrahim Traore, hope future generations will inherit. Every ambitious idea eventually encounters skepticism, and the Lavator is no exception. As images and videos of Gael Cabore's invention spread across Africa and beyond, many people welcomed the project as evidence of African creativity and determination. Others, however, responded with caution. Some questioned whether the machine could truly compete with imported products. Others argued that one innovative prototype could not possibly transform an entire country's economy. These concerns deserve careful consideration because genuine progress is built not only on optimism but also on honest evaluation. The real question is not whether criticism exists. The real question is whether those criticisms outweigh the significance of what has already been achieved. One common argument is that the Lavator remains a relatively small-scale innovation. Critics point out that the machine has not yet been manufactured in large quantities, exported across continents, or adopted by millions of households. From a purely industrial perspective, this observation is accurate. Large-scale manufacturing requires substantial investment, modern production facilities, reliable supply chains, quality certification, distribution networks, and long-term customer support. Burkina Faso has not yet reached that stage in the development of this product. However, history shows that nearly every successful industrial innovation began as a single prototype before gradually evolving into commercial production. Judging the Lavator solely by its current production volume ignores the long process through which industries are normally built. Another concern focuses on competitiveness. Imported washing machines produced by major international manufacturers benefit from decades of research, enormous production capacity, and economies of scale that allow them to reduce costs significantly. Competing directly against those companies would be extremely difficult for any small manufacturer. Yet that comparison may overlook the Lavator's greatest advantage. Gael Cabore did not design his invention to compete head-to-head with premium household appliances sold in wealthy urban markets. He designed it to solve specific local challenges, including unreliable electricity, limited water resources, and the need for affordable mobile laundry services. In other words, the Lavator occupies a different market by responding to conditions that many imported products were never designed to address. Some observers also worry that enthusiasm surrounding local innovation can sometimes lead to unrealistic expectations. A single invention cannot eliminate unemployment, industrialize an entire nation, or instantly replace imported technology. Those are reasonable reminders that should not be ignored. Sustainable development requires consistent investment in education, vocational training, engineering, infrastructure, finance, and entrepreneurship over many years. Without those foundations, even the most promising inventions may struggle to achieve commercial success. Recognizing these limitations does not diminish the value of the Lavator. Instead, it places the invention within a realistic framework that encourages continued progress rather than exaggerated claims. Perhaps the most important lesson is that innovation should never be measured only by immediate commercial success. Sometimes, an invention changes the way people think before it changes the market itself. By demonstrating that a practical solution to a local problem can be imagined, designed, and built inside Burkina Faso, Gael Cabore has challenged long-standing assumptions about where valuable technology must originate. That shift in confidence may inspire future engineers, entrepreneurs, investors, and policymakers to pursue even more ambitious projects. If that happens, the Lavator will be remembered not merely as a washing machine, but as an important milestone in a much larger journey toward African innovation and industrial self-confidence. The story of the Lavator extends far beyond Burkina Faso because it raises an important question for the entire African continent. What can other nations learn from a simple invention that began with one entrepreneur observing an everyday problem? For decades, many African countries have discussed industrialization, economic independence, and technological development. Yet genuine progress often begins with practical solutions rather than grand declarations. The Lavator reminds us that meaningful innovation does not always start with advanced aerospace technology or massive industrial complexes. Sometimes it starts by making daily life easier for ordinary families. That lesson may prove valuable not only for Burkina Faso but also for many countries facing similar challenges across Africa. The first lesson is that successful innovation should begin with local needs rather than foreign trends. Too often, developing countries attempt to copy technologies created for completely different markets without considering whether those products truly address local realities. Gael Cabore followed a different path. He examined the conditions around him, including limited access to electricity, concerns about water consumption, and the physical burden of washing clothes by hand. Instead of adapting people to imported technology, he adapted technology to the people. This philosophy can be applied to agriculture, healthcare, transportation, education, renewable energy, and many other sectors throughout Africa. The second lesson concerns the importance of building complete innovation ecosystems rather than celebrating isolated inventors. Every successful entrepreneur requires support from skilled workers, vocational schools, universities, financial institutions, manufacturers, investors, distributors, and customers willing to trust locally produced goods. Without these supporting institutions, even the most creative ideas may never move beyond the prototype stage. Governments therefore play an important role by encouraging research, protecting intellectual property, improving technical education, and creating an environment where small businesses can gradually grow into competitive industries. Private investors and consumers are equally important because sustainable innovation depends on both supply and demand. A third lesson is that industrial development should not be viewed as a choice between complete self-sufficiency and total dependence on imports. Modern economies succeed by finding a balanced approach. International partnerships remain valuable for acquiring knowledge, equipment, and investment, while local manufacturing strengthens economic resilience and creates employment opportunities. Burkina Faso's experience with the Lavato suggests that domestic innovation and international cooperation can complement one another rather than compete against each other. The objective is not to reject foreign technology, but to develop the confidence and capacity to contribute original solutions as well. Perhaps the greatest lesson is psychological. Throughout history, countries that achieve lasting industrial progress first develop confidence in their own ability to solve problems. The Lavator encourages Africans to view themselves not only as consumers of technology, but also as inventors, engineers, manufacturers, and entrepreneurs capable of creating products suited to their own societies. That shift in mindset may ultimately prove more valuable than any single machine. As Africa continues to search for sustainable paths toward development, stories like Gael Cabore's remind us that every industrial journey begins with one practical idea, one determined inventor, and one community willing to believe that local solutions deserve local support. If that belief continues to grow, the future of African innovation may be brighter than many people once imagined. As we reach the end of this remarkable story, one truth becomes increasingly clear. The Lavator is not simply about washing clothes. It is about changing perspectives. For generations, many people around the world have viewed Burkina Faso primarily through the lens of conflict, poverty, or humanitarian challenges. While those difficulties remain real, they do not define the full identity of a nation filled with talented engineers, determined entrepreneurs, skilled craftsmen, and young innovators searching for practical solutions to everyday problems. Gael Cabore's invention reminds us that progress often begins quietly with individuals who refuse to accept that ordinary challenges must remain permanent. The Lavator should not be mistaken for proof that Burkina Faso has already become a fully industrialized nation. No single invention can accomplish such a transformation. Building a competitive manufacturing economy requires decades of investment, technical education, modern infrastructure, responsible governance, private entrepreneurship, financial support, and consumer confidence. Those challenges still exist, and acknowledging them makes the story more credible rather than less inspiring. Yet every industrial success story in history has started somewhere. Before factories produce millions of products, someone first built a prototype. Before industries transformed national economies, someone first believed that local talent could compete with global ideas. Perhaps that is why the Lavator deserves international attention. It demonstrates that innovation does not always have to begin in the world's richest countries or inside multinational corporations. Sometimes it begins in a local workshop where an inventor studies the daily struggles of ordinary families and asks how life can be made a little easier. That approach has the power to inspire not only Burkina Faso but also many other countries facing similar circumstances across Africa. When practical innovation is combined with determination, education, investment, and public support, small ideas can gradually become important industries. The future of Burkina Faso will not depend on one inventor alone, nor on one political leader, nor on one government policy. It will depend on whether thousands of citizens choose to create, improve, manufacture, teach, invest, and believe in their own capabilities. In that broader sense, the Lavator represents far more than a mobile washing machine. It symbolizes confidence, resilience, and the willingness to build solutions that reflect African realities instead of waiting for others to solve African problems. If this spirit continues to grow, the conversation surrounding African news may increasingly highlight stories of innovation instead of limitation. The vision promoted by Ibrahim Traore, alongside discussions taking place within the African Union, reflects a broader aspiration shared across parts of West Africa. Similar conversations about economic resilience can also be found in Mali under Assimi Goïta and in Niger under Abdourahmane Chiani, while relationships with partners such as France continue to evolve. Across the Sahel, the ultimate measure of success will not be political slogans, but practical achievements that improve everyday life. The Lavator offers one encouraging example of what is possible when creativity meets determination. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this analysis and would like to discover more stories about African innovation, leadership, and development, please subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, and leave a comment below telling us whether you believe inventions like the Lavator could help shape a stronger future for Burkina Faso and the entire African continent. Your thoughts may become part of our next discussion. We sincerely appreciate your time and support. Every video on this channel is carefully researched, thoughtfully written, and meticulously edited by our dedicated team. We don't rely on automated production or shortcuts to create our content. Every story, every visual, and every detail is crafted with genuine care, passion, and a commitment to bringing you meaningful, high-quality videos.